Welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Tracy Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library, and it's just a joy each week to get to have you join us on this show to hear about things that are going on at the library and things that are going on in our community that connect to the library. And we appreciate TV47 so much for giving us this outlet for so many years like they have. Now today we're joined by Dr. Shirley Spears, and Dr. Spears is our former library director, but she's still very involved with the library through the Library Foundation. And one of the things that was a feather in Dr. Spears' cap, so to speak, while she was at the library as the director was being able to acquire what we call the Avondale paintings, but it's the Douglas Crockwell Avondale collection. And if you're not familiar with that, I think you'll enjoy the show today to learn a little bit more about that. But Avondale Mills has been such a fixture in this community for so many years, for so many of our families. It touched, I mean, if you didn't work at Avondale, you knew somebody that did, or somebody in your family worked there. And so Avondale really was just a huge part of our community. And a lot of people know the story. In 2006, there was just it was a tragic accident at the Graniteville, South Carolina plant, Avondale's plant there. And so Avondale Mills was sort of on the decline after that. And when Avondale Mills officially closed, Stephen Felker, who was president of Avondale Mills, gave the collection of 18 originals and 1 copy, so there's 19 total in that collection. He gave these paintings to the library because these paintings are unique because they feature families that worked in the Pell City plant, the Ellick City plant, the Sylacauga plant, the Birmingham plant, the Sycamore plant. So most of these people are local families that are featured in these. And I'm going to let you talk about the other part of them being so unique that they ran as ads.
Well, Tracy, I think it's interesting to think back on it that the mill went down in 2006. And of course, you know, honestly, the first thing I did was ask for the paintings and ask for the Avondale Sons. And remember, we got the Sons, 82 years of company history, and of course we digitized those and they're on the internet now, and people are just using them all over the world. And so we were so proud of ourselves. You were there and worked with us on that, and we're so glad to get them. And then everybody wanted the Crockwell paintings. I was not the only one that wanted them. You know, they wanted them in other towns, individuals wanted them. But they were predominantly Sylacauga people. There's lots of other people there, but they're predominantly Sylacauga people. And Mr. Felker waited to make up his mind, and I thank Mark Tapley so much for helping us to let him know that we were a good place and open a lot and had a big building and could keep them on permanent display because that's what he wanted. He wanted them to be available for people to come and see on a permanent basis. So it makes me glad to know that. Now, looking at the historical context and the overall collection itself is quite interesting to me because they ran in 47 and 48 in the Saturday Evening Post. And most people who know about Avondale know that they were full-page ads, beautiful full-page ads. Well, the text on there, you've read that book, and it's about as interesting as the pictures in many ways. The pictures are beautiful, they look like you could walk into them, but the text is a huge, I think marketing people could do well to look at it, because every one of those paintings would so puff the goods on something that Avondale felt strongly about. And remember, we just learned about Mr. Donald Comer 2 or 3 weeks ago in a program, and how he cared about the employees. He wanted to have benefits for them. He wanted them to have a good life, to own homes, to be happy. All of those things makes good employees. So when they hired, Douglas Crockwell was an ad art artist, and very much like Norman Rockwell, not as famous, did not ever become as famous, and they were actually rivals. But he hired him to do the pictures for this ad. These pictures were to portray a way of life that employees of Avondale aspired to, a good life where they could have a home, they could educate their family, they could have recreation, they could have the good life working for Avondale. Now, Avondale had a great many things probably on their mind at that time. The war was over, times were good, people had come in off the farms and gone to work in the mills. They had gone to the steel mills, the cotton mills, and they were through with sharecropping, working for nothing, working all the time. So that was kind of the way the culture looked at that time. But there were labor problems throughout the country. And so Avondale was always very anti-union, of course, and they were had a motive there of putting the word out there how good they were. And you'll see in the name of these paintings, it sort of reflects that. That they're touting themselves as we're good enough without the union. We're a good place to work, we pay a good wage, and so forth. So as we go through these paintings, remembering the time, it's after the war, everybody's kind of happy, the economy is good. And I will mention one thing, and I'll mention it again later, and that is that when a display of art was done at the Montgomery Fine Arts Museum in recent years, Depression art, which is dark, mechanical, not very pretty, they borrowed 7 of these paintings from us to show another side of the story, which is when the economy is good, it impacts art. These are happy, pretty, beautiful pictures, and they wanted a wall over here to show that this is how it looks after the war, after the Depression. But these are people coming into work. Many of them had lived through the Depression. They'd been very poor. A lot of them were sharecroppers that had come in and they were proud of their jobs, and they just found a way of life that these pictures reflect that was so much better than what they had had, Tracy. It was such a good way to live for them, considering where they had been. So I think it'd be good for us to let people see these pictures and talk a little bit about them, and then for them to come to the library and look at them and talk to you about them personally.
See them in person. I think, like Dr. Spears said, these pictures are so beautiful, and it looks like a scene that you could just walk into.
It does.
And so let's talk about the first one, America's Sense of Beauty. And Robert's actually going to put these up and let you take a look at them while we're talking about them.
Okay, this was Mr. Felker's favorite picture, and when he came in like a year and a half after the mill went down, and to tell us that he had decided to allow the library to have this collection and to gift it to us, he brought this painting with him. And we talked about it, and he liked it because it showcased the fabric so well. And then with the design room, of course, Miss Frances Horton is there, and that's about the only one that I know. We did have a lady come by one day, and it was the beautiful blonde in the pink dress. I don't recall her name, but she came by one day to see that picture, and I went over and talked to her, and she was already as old as I am now. She was elderly at that time, and she said, well, you know, that's kind of a glamour shot of me. She said, you know, I don't know that I really look that pretty. And I said, well, you were one beautiful girl. But they really, really were into fabric, and that, you know, their chambray, their denim, all their different types of fabric. They had local girls, beautiful girls, like Betty Leslie, and I remember that Betty was a model, and there were so many of the girls from around town that did work there, and of course the older lady that's doing the alterations and making the gowns, boy, I admire her.
Yeah.
So she must have really been something. So the design room picture was Mr. Felker's favorite because it showcased the fabric, and I think it's so beautiful.
It's beautiful. And the pictures are all gorgeous, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to show you the rest of this collection.
Hot under the collar because your basement is full of water? Call a local company you can trust. Ox Foundation Solutions. We use the most advanced water management system to stop water from invading your basement for good. Things feeling a little uneven at home? Ox Foundation Solutions will fix your uneven concrete sidewalk, driveway, or basement in no time. Ox Foundation Solutions has the best plan to keep your home safe. If you are experiencing any issues with your sidewalks, basement, crawl space, or foundation, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Tax time is here again. Dreading the time and stress of filing your taxes this year? Let the trained professionals at King's Tax Service help you and to give you that peace of mind. Our dedicated team of experts will give you friendly and professional service this tax season and any time of the year. Also, ask about the refund anticipation loan. You may apply for up to $5,000. Don't let the deadline sneak up on you, and don't let filing taxes get you down. Come in and see us today at King's Tax Service.
Coosa Valley Medical Center, one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama, is also Sylacauga's largest employer. Services from the emergency room, to surgery, to cancer treatment, to post-stroke care. You won't believe what's right in your backyard. It's Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga. So, if you're sick in Alabama, choose one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama. That is Coosa Valley Medical Center.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracy Thomas, Director at the Comer Library, and today we're talking with Dr. Shirley Spears. And Dr. Spears, we have been talking about we call them the Avondale Art Collection, but it's the Douglas Crockwell Avondale Collection. And this is a series of 18 originals and 1 copy paintings that hang in the library. And you've been talking about the fact that they ran as ads in the Saturday Evening Post,
Right.
and that they do feature families that were Avondale Mills employees. And so we've talked about the first one. Let's talk about the second one, The Spirit of Play.
Well, I think I chose, we call it the Camp Helen picture, and they, it's named The Spirit of Play in the ad, and they have lofty names, and we all have colloquial names for them. But I liked it second because it's the one that people are so fond of. They're so attached to their memories of Camp Helen, going down to the beachfront camp property that Avondale owned. And I would like to remind everybody that at that particular time in history, in 47 and 48, vacation was a concept that was not familiar to poor people. You worked in the summer. In fact, summer was the optimal time to work on the farm. When it was warm weather, you were always working. But when they came into town and went to work for Avondale, and Avondale did begin to go with Mr. Donald Comer's philosophy, and they set up camps and places for people to go, and Camp Helen was a huge favorite. And I'm sure that the Mills from all over the state had access to it. We're more familiar with the Sylacauga stories. And they would bus the people down, and I think it was like, Ted told me that, of course, he remembers very well. He grew up in Avondale, Bevale in Ellick City. $17 a week per person. And they would close the mill, of course, in July because they closed the mill, they worked on their machinery, they cleaned up, and they just refurbished and did some work in July. So July was a big time for people to go down. They had, he told me, tent-like structures to start with floors. Had a mess hall. It was almost kind of, you can see Mr. Donald's military experience come in there, the way it was set up. And they had the big house where the dignitaries stayed, but bunk beds or cots, and people could go down and take their family. It was inexpensive, and they could not have to worry about cooking, and they could go over and eat in the mess hall, and I guess get in the water and play and all that. It was just a wonderful thing for those families. They probably had organized games and sports and different things there. But I don't really know the people that are in the picture there. I do think that most of them are Sylacauga people, and it just shows a scene of them playing on the beach and having a good time. And the little girl's got the sand bucket and all those things that today we take for granted.
Looks like a carefree picture.
It does.
The next one is Independence, and this features the White family from Sycamore.
This is one of my very favorite pictures, is the White family. The White family from Sycamore was Miss Ida White, and she has a birthday cake. She has a quilt on her lap there, and she has those adoring guys that are that's her family, her sons, and maybe some of her nephews. I'm not sure about the relation of all of them. Most of them were managerial people with the Sycamore Mill. And you can tell they're a dressed up family, and they're nice, and they're coming in there to help Grandma or their mother or grandmother celebrate her birthday. And I remember that later we found out that on the quilt, that the family sort of divided the quilt up. It became such a sort of a symbol, I guess, of her and of a way of life and that sort of thing. I just think this is a lovely picture. And I remember one time with a White reunion out at Sycamore that we actually opened the library one Sunday afternoon for them to come in and to hear about the paintings, take a look. And many of those grandchildren, I heard from them, and they had never seen that picture before. They were so thrilled with that picture.
I just think the way he captured the whole family just looks like they're just doting on her and, happy to be there celebrating her. I think that's such a sweet picture.
It is, and the name of it, Independence. Obviously she still could quilt, and she had her probably still in her little digs, I don't know. But I love that picture, I really do.
And the next one is The Fabric of Mankind.
Well, go figure about the title of that one. We call it the Christmas tree picture. And it is a picture where they're obviously up in the morning looking at their presents, and you got the father and the mother and the children there. Now, I talked to Christine Campbell, the little girl with the brown sandals on. She came in one day. I think she was in Harold Brooks' class, that age. and they were doing a class reunion planning session at the library, and she came down and looked. She said, the guy came in, and he actually, I think the way that worked is he came in and posed pictures. Then he went back somewhere and painted the pictures. And she said, actually, he told Mom to put me in my pajamas and robe and my house shoes, and I didn't have any house shoes, so she put my brown sandals on me. I really like that story, and I asked her to write it down for us. And we're trying over the years, we probably need to run them again on Facebook or the media or some way, and ask people to come in and try to identify, because we still don't know who everyone in the pictures would be. But we might have a better chance now with social media, I don't know. It's interesting to know who they are and where they come from.
It sure
really is.
Well, the next one is called An Enduring Partnership, and this is one of the I guess, the crowd favorites at the library.
We call this the Tom Thumb painting, and I just think it's just beautiful, and we love it. And I think one of the reasons that it's sort of stands out is there's so many people in it. And we kind of know who some of them are. You have, in that painting, you have, Naaman Culver is the groom. Well, his mother was mad because the back of his head was all you could see, and she talked to the artist, and so he put him in. He's in there twice. You see him in the back there with that red hair. And then David Culberson, who I think is still living. Peggy Strickland was the bride. And so a lot of people will come by to see the Tom Thumb painting because it's their aunt or it's their uncle, or they know somebody that's in that painting. So it is kind of a favorite because it does have lots of people that people are just familiar with. They know who they are. And then too, it is so pretty. It's just so beautiful. It really is. That little bride is so pretty, and the colors are beautiful in all of them. They just glow.
Okay. Now the next one is called Good Health, and it features local people.
We are so lucky, I think, to have this painting because it is the Hardy twins, and that would be John and Jim Hardy. And of course, we know Sharon, and her husband was John, and I've talked to her before. They were born in the Drummond Fraser Hospital, which was the Avondale Hospital. I think they may have been the first babies to be born there. I'm not sure about that. But some of the people in that picture, a lot of people know who they are. One of them is Zip McNeil. Her name was something else, but they called her Zip. And so people will talk about Zip McNeil, and a lot of these people were just kind of, you knew the nurses, and you knew the people, the doctors, and the people around town. I think this is such a sweet picture. I really do. It's just a priceless picture, and we really enjoy looking at it.
Well, you can tell we've got a lot to tell you about these pictures, and we've got a few more to run through, and we're going to do that when we come back after this break.
Hot under the collar because your basement is full of water? Call a local company you can trust. Ox Foundation Solutions. We use the most advanced water management system to stop water from invading your basement for good. Things feeling a little uneven at home? Ox Foundation Solutions will fix your uneven concrete sidewalk, driveway, or basement in no time. Ox Foundation Solutions has the best plan to keep your home safe. If you are experiencing any issues with your sidewalks, basement, crawl space, or foundation, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Tax time is here again. Dreading the time and stress of filing your taxes this year? Let the trained professionals at King's Tax Service help you and to give you that peace of mind. Our dedicated team of experts will give you friendly and professional service this tax season and any time of the year. Also, ask about the refund anticipation loan. You may apply for up to $5,000. Don't let the deadline sneak up on you, and don't let filing taxes get you down. Come in and see us today at King's Tax Service.
Coosa Valley Medical Center, one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama, is also Sylacauga's largest employer. Services from the emergency room to surgery to cancer treatment to post-stroke care. You won't believe what's right in your backyard. It's Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga. So, if you're sick in Alabama, choose one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama. That is Coosa Valley Medical Center.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. Today we're talking about the Douglas Crockwell Avondale art collection that we have at the B.B. Comer Library, and we're going through these, and we're going to go quickly through the rest of these so that you can see them all today. Dr. Spears, let's talk about the Fabric of America.
Fabric of America. This painting is so interesting because it is exactly what the title does indicate. I think that series was Fabric of Life, maybe the overall. And it's clever the way they tie fabric to life. So this is a cross-section of Avondale people. They were from Sylacauga, Pell City, Birmingham, Elliott City. They represent management. I see Mr. Alec Turner there. I remember Mr. Alec Turner. He's such a good-looking man. And then in the middle, Ms. Hazel Pickering, who is Susan Johnson's mother. And you have a black man in this painting. You have the different ages, the different jobs that they had with the mill. So it's just a great cross-section of executives, workers, and so forth, representing what Mr. Donald believed in, which is everyone was important.
Yeah.
Everyone was important.
It's a beautiful picture.
It is.
Okay, how about a better way of living?
This picture is so funny, and if I had Donna Dickey here, she could tell you every person in this painting, because she and Douglas went to Pell City High School. And I think it's interesting because it has a broken tooth, it's got a hair out of place, it's just such a normal looking picture of young people without it being photoshopped. And you can tell that, you know, it's just a bunch of young people with all their little quirks, and it reflects, of course, Avondale's. Every one of these pictures reflects something, and this reflects their interest in music, and they really pushed and promoted that. And this was new. I mean, you didn't always have that in that day and time. So lots of things represented by that painting.
The next one is called Opportunity, and it's one of my favorites. And I think after you hear the story of Mr. Donald and how he wanted everybody to have a good life, I think this painting is so important.
I think so. And James Leonard told me, he came by one day and he said, "That's Miss Patton." And he said she was a black school teacher in our school at East Highland. And anyway, Mr. Donald had been 3.5 years he had served in the Spanish-American War. We had a program on that recently. And he had commanded a black troop there, and he came back, as they say he had seen the elephant, he came back forever changed with the way that he felt about people, as to who they were, their place in life. And in this, they talk about Booker T. Washington and his famous statement of casting your bucket down where you are. And he's, in a way, this painting is saying that everybody is trying to do what they can where they are, and he wanted to be a part of that. So he really valued his black employees and tried to give them opportunities, and he was a product of the time that he lived in, but he was an enlightened man for his times.
The next one is Self-Reliance.
This is General Noble and an Elliott City Boy Scout troop, and I read the names of those this morning to Ted before I left the house, and he knew every one of those people. They were his contemporaries, and he knew all of them. And he talked about how Avondale loved scouting, and Tracy, everybody in the managerial structure at Avondale worked with some of these projects. And they really pushed them to promote scouting. They thought it made better men. They furnished camps in Florida, there at Camp Helen and in the mountains and on the lake and on the Coosa River. They really promoted scouting. And I think that's a good point, that it was a wonderful experience. Ted had a brother that just loved it. They loved boys loved everything about scouting.
And the next one is called Freedom from Harm.
Okay, this is a wonderful painting. This is a Pell City picture, and the little boy is Dot Brown's brother. He's either Doug Layton, who was the announcer for the University of Alabama sports, or he's his brother. I'm not sure which. We'll try to clear that up someday. But freedom from harm, I think, is emphasizing the point that people are back at home from the war. They're working, they're making a good living, their kids can go out safely to meet them coming out of the mill. We did have a lady come in, an older lady from Pell City, to see this painting because that was her husband. And she was older, and she said, "I came to buy this painting. I want to take this painting home with me." And I felt so sensitive to her, and her daughter was shaking her head and saying, you know, she doesn't understand that she can't carry it home with her. And so I talked to her for a minute about how good looking I thought her husband was and how I could understand why she wanted that painting, but that if she carried it home with her, only she would see it. And there, so many people would see it and think about how handsome he was and what a lovely family he had. So she felt good about that. So I have a special feeling for that painting.
The next one's called A Saving Wage.
Don't you love this painting? I mean, it's just so sweet, and it's, of course, promoting the position that Avondale made enough money for people to make a living, but also to save a little bit. They were big on home ownership, so they were thinking about that.
The next one is called A Boy's Future.
All right,
So cute.
these are Alex City boys fishing off a rock. Tony Mitchell, who lives here, there. Billy Pike was in the Marines, killed in California. I'm not sure about the other guy, but they were, that's a sweet, sweet picture of three little mischievous boys. It reminds me of Huck Finn.
Captured exactly like they were, I'm sure. The next one is That Home of One's Dreams.
I love this picture also. It's such a little family scene. Again, Avondale is encouraging home ownership. Not all the mill villages did that. A lot of them rented really cheap. But Avondale encouraged people to buy their homes, take pride in them, take care of them, and have a home.
The next one is called A Prospering Countryside.
This is a Sylacauga picture. This is a picture where they were so big on, before their time, on green. They encourage people to work with soil erosion. They encourage people to work with conservation, with breeding good herds, all that kind of thing. A real interesting thing. Again, Avondale just on the cutting edge with thinking about those things.
The next one is America's Future.
This is a beautiful picture. That is Miss Campbell that taught at Comer, and she's Christine's mother, I believe, and she's got the beautiful Avondale fabric on, and it's an expression of gratitude to America's teachers. Avondale supported teachers. They were really big on the importance of teachers, and we all know that that's exactly right on the money.
Sure. The next one is America's Love of Outdoors.
Okay, in this picture, they're promoting their denim and their interest in the outdoors and in recreation. Remember, you know, we have the J. Craig Smith Community Center. They were big on recreation, outdoor sports, that kind of thing. But they also had exactly the right fabric for it, which was denim.
I love the way the fabric's featured in these paintings.
It's just great.
The next one is A Peaceful Old Age.
This is a Birmingham man, and those were Birmingham people too in the boat. But this is talking about retirement, the joys of old age, how you can do some things you've always wanted to do, and they show this old man fishing. And they are actually saying that, hey, we have a plan, we have a way for people to save. You know, they had the credit union here where people could have deductions from their check. And they had some kind of plan where that they gave profit sharing so that they tried to help people prepare for their retirement. So way ahead of their time, they were thinking about retirement and how people could save for their old age.
And then the last one, and we did get through all of these, I'm so glad you got to see them all, is called Human Happiness.
This is a really sweet picture and just different from all the rest. And we kept wondering, we'd heard that it was Douglas Crockwell's son, and I noticed in the notebook it's still noted as Douglas Crockwell's son. And that is not true. And it made sense because it could have been a vanity picture that he slid in. But we had a guy come by one day, and he lived in Georgia or Tennessee or somewhere, and he was a Birmingham guy. And he said it was him, and he had the negative of the picture, so we found out that it was just a worker, an Avondale worker from Birmingham.
Well, Dr. Spears, we got through them all. We're glad we got to show them to you today, and we're thankful that Avondale trusted us to keep those. So thank you for the work put into this.
It is really a feather in the cap of the B.B. Comer Memorial Library. They're on permanent display. People come by from all over the country when they're in town to see them, and Tracy and them do a really good job of taking care of them. So thank you for that, Tracy.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us today.